I wish I could erase that night from my mind, the sounds, the scent, the way the air shifted when I stepped into the hallway. No matter how tightly I shut my eyes or tried to convince myself it wasn't real, the memory claws its way back, raw and vivid, impossible to ignore. It started like any ordinary evening. Dad was out of town for one of his overnight business meetings, leaving the house eerily quiet. I just returned from a late-night study session, exhausted, barely holding myself together. The lights were dim, casting long shadows across the walls, and all I wanted was a hot shower and sleep. But then I heard it, a muffled sound, soft yet urgent, too strange for the silence, too rhythmic for comfort. It came from my parents' bedroom. I paused at the end of the hallway, my breath catching. Maybe the TV was on, or she was talking on the phone, I told myself, trying to reason away the unease. But curiosity had a mind of its own. Slowly, cautiously, I crept closer, the floor creaking beneath my bare feet. Then I heard it again, a moan, low, feminine, achingly real. I froze, my hand hovering inches from the door, my heart pounding as the truth bloomed in my chest like a bruise. It couldn't be her, not my mother. But I couldn't walk away either, not without knowing. So I pushed the door open, just a crack. What I saw through that sliver of space has lived behind my eyes ever since. My mother was on her knees on the bed, her robe discarded on the floor, her skin glowing under the golden wash of the lamp. Her back arched in surrender, and in front of her, pressed between her thighs, was another woman. Her hands gripped my mother's hips like they belonged there, her mouth buried in her, slow and deliberate. The sounds, the way my mother's head fell back, her lips parted in a silent cry, I couldn't breathe. I snapped the door shut and stumbled back, nearly tripping in the hallway. My stomach twisted, my face burned. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or disappear into the carpet. My mother, my sweet, quiet, perfect mother, was having an affair with a woman. I made it to my room, locked the door, and didn't sleep that night. I lay under the covers, the blood rushing in my ears, feeling the walls closing. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about her, cracked and shattered. I wanted to hate her, to understand, to demand answers, but I was too afraid to ask the questions. The next morning, she acted like nothing had happened. She greeted me in the kitchen with a soft "good morning, baby," her eyes warm, her smile unshaken. I stared at her across the table, searching for some change in her face, her tone, anything. But she was the same, as if nothing had occurred. "You okay?" she asked, tilting her head. "You look pale. Didn't sleep well," I mumbled, my voice dry. She nodded, sliding a mug of coffee across the table. I figured. "You've been pushing yourself too hard lately." I watched her fingers brush the mug's handle, elegant, steady, too composed. Those were the same hands I'd seen gripping that woman's shoulders, pulling a stranger into her warmth. Now they were pouring milk into my cereal like nothing had changed. But everything had. That day dragged on, each look she gave me heavier, loaded with a meaning she didn't know I'd uncovered. Every touch on my arm, every brush of my hair from my face, sent shivers down my spine, not disgust, but confusion, a confusion that scared me more than anything. Because the truth I hadn't admitted, not even to myself, was that something stirred in me that night. I should have been shocked, angry, horrified, but instead, I felt something closer to longing, something deep, dark, and wrong. The worst part, I didn't want it to stop. I kept replaying it, her body curved under the golden light, her gasps, the quiet desperation in her voice. My mind refused to let it go. I started to wonder, had I caught her, or had I been waiting too? That night, I stood outside her bedroom door again. I hadn't meant to, I'd only meant to pass by. But my feet stopped, and I lingered, listening. No moans, no stranger, just silence. Yet that silence was louder than the noise had been. I pressed my palm against the door, my heart pounding, breathing heavier than I should have been. I wanted to knock, to say something, but I just stood there, the silence confirming what I already knew. Whatever I'd seen, whatever it awakened in me, wouldn't fade. The next few days were a blur of avoidance. I dodged eye contact at breakfast, kept my answers short, stayed out longer after school, and wore headphones even when nothing played, just to keep her at a distance. But she noticed. My mother was always attentive, painfully so, and now that I was pulling away, she reached closer. "You're quiet lately," she said one evening, watching me from across the living room. "Something happened at school." I nodded without looking up. "Yeah, exams." A lie, and she probably knew it. She leaned forward, her robe loosely cinched, a glimpse of her bare thigh catching my eye as the fabric shifted. I swallowed hard, forcing my gaze to my phone. "You know you can talk to me about anything, right?" she said gently. I knew. That was the problem. I couldn't stop hearing her voice from that night, not soft like now, but breathless, trembling with desire. It blended into my thoughts until I couldn't tell memory from fantasy. I hated myself for craving those moments, replaying them when I was alone. The more I pushed it away, the more it pulled me back. It was a Wednesday evening when everything shifted. Dad's trip had been extended, and it was just us in the house again. I just showered, the towel clinging to my skin as I stepped into the hallway. The bathroom mirror was foggy, and I stood there, heart racing for reasons I couldn't grasp. Then her voice came from behind me. "Forgot your clothes?" I jumped, turning to see her standing outside the bathroom, smiling softly, arms crossed. She wasn't trying to be seductive, but the moment felt sharp, charged. "No," I mumbled, clutching the towel tighter. "Just spaced out." She stepped forward, placing a fresh shirt on the counter. I figured you'd want something comfortable. It's one of mine." I took it, our fingers brushing, and something electric passed between us. Her smile faltered, her eyes lingering on mine too long. "You've been different lately," she said, voice quieter. "Is there something you want to talk about?" I stared at her damp hair falling against her shoulder, the jasmine scent of her lotion. My mouth opened, but nothing came out. She touched my cheek, her thumb brushing a damp strand of hair away. "Sweetheart, whatever it is, you don't have to be afraid." It was too much, her warmth, her trembling voice, the way her touch lingered. "I saw you," I whispered, my throat tight. "That night. In your room. With her." Silence stretched between us. She didn't deny it, didn't panic. Her eyes fell to the floor. "I didn't know you were home," she murmured. "I wasn't supposed to be," I replied. But I was. And I saw everything. Another pause. I thought she'd yell, apologize, or run. Instead, she stepped closer. "And what did you feel?" she asked, her voice trembling. I didn't answer, not with words, but the silence spoke for me. She nodded, understanding something we hadn't said aloud. "You've always been so strong," she said. "But I never imagined you'd carry something like this alone." I didn't know if she meant what I saw or what I felt, maybe both. Her touch sparked through me like lightning, and I didn't pull away. "I'm not proud of what I've done," she said quietly. "But I'm not ashamed of who I am. And if you're confused, I understand that more than anyone." My throat tightened. I didn't want to cry, not when my body trembled with everything I couldn't say. She leaned in so slowly and kissed my forehead. Her lips were warm, too gentle. I leaned into her, just for a second, but that second changed everything. After that night, something shifted, not explosively, but quietly, like a slow leak flooding a room. We moved through the house like ghosts, tethered by glances, never touching, never finishing the sentence we'd started. I began noticing her more, not as a daughter, but as a woman. The way her robe slipped from her shoulder, the way her fingers trailed across her lips when she thought. She was beautiful, heartbreakingly so, and now that I'd seen the pieces she never meant to show, I couldn't look at her the same. I started wearing her shirts to bed, not just for comfort, but because they smelled like her jasmine, linen, warmth. I'd catch her eyes lingering on me, a second too long, a breath too deep, and I lived for those moments. They became our language, our secret, our slow descent into something neither of us could name. It was a Tuesday when things cracked again. I walked into the kitchen after a shower, fully clothed, composed. She was at the table, a half-full wine glass in hand, a book she wasn't reading. Her eyes lifted, heavy and unreadable. "You look older today," she said softly. I blinked. "What do you mean?" "There's something in your face. You're not a girl anymore." That hit hard. I crossed my arms. "Do you miss being someone else's girl?"